Looks like Joe already has his team locked in, as let's take a quick look at his accomplishments here. North American International Championships, top 4 last season, as well as a regional championship win from the Portland. Let's take a look at Gio's accomplishments here. A couple of top 8 finishes in regional championships. 2016 made it to the world's top 16, and of course the regional in Orlando top 8 back in 2016. But these players already know what they want to do. They're already ready to get started here with the top 4. Gio leading with Fergraf and Iron Hands, while Joe leads with King Gambit and Urshifu.
Yeah, no hesitation at all. Both players ready to get in this game. The Fergraf and Iron Hands are led from Gio's side, maybe actually looking for a fake out and trick room, whereas the Urshifu is out there but doesn't like its matchups here. 2 Pokemon that both threaten it and no vulnerable target for surging strikes, and so it leaves the field for Chien Pao to come in instead.
Chien Pao's Sword of Ruin will take effect, drop the defense of all Pokemon on the field as King Gambit protects itself, does not want to get faked out, does not want to get hit by a possible fighting type attack from the Iron Hands either. Fake out lands into that protect slot, so Fergraf will get to move here, does use Hyper Voice, but hits into the King Gambit Protect and will do some damage to the Chien Pao, most importantly breaking the Focus Sash on the Chien Pao, as Fergraf will take some recoil from that Life Orb.
Yeah, I mean, a fairly strong turn for Gio, right? Doesn't fall for a Psychic move into that slot, instead just uses Hyper Voice and picks up a majority of Chien Pao's health bar, while King Gambit just protects itself from the fake out. Joe still has to watch out for both of these Pokemon. The Iron Hands is not easy to deal with. Both Pokemon out here 4 times weak to fighting, don't want to take a Drain Punch, and so the Terastallization is used to get King Gambit away from that fighting weakness and become a Dragon type instead.
King Gambit Terastallizes a very good defensive typing here for King Gambit to become the Dragon type. Fergraf protects itself, does not want to get hit by a potential Kowtow Cleave, or if it was going for an attack, a possible Sucker Punch, as Chien Pao will use Ice Spin here, connects onto the Iron Hands, dealing about 40% damage there, and here's a huge Kowtow Cleave, but it lands into that Fergraf Protect.
Yeah, Fergraf smartly protecting itself from the super effective move on the other side, while the Drain Punch only lands in a King Gambit for about 40% because it dropped that 4 times weakness to fighting. But all told, just a little bit of chip damage on both sides. Iron Hands heals off a good amount of that Iron Spinner, and with the Drain Punch, and the King Gambit still took a pretty good chunk of damage. The Terastallization spent from Joe's side, but not for a decisively strong turn, just to kind of progress through this game and make sure that King Gambit can safely stay on the field in future turns.
Gio protecting Fergraf even more, switching it out. Ogerpon will take the field here, carrying that Wellspring Mask, as Chien Pao protects itself, does not want to potentially get knocked out by the Iron Hands, wants to keep that Sword of Ruin for more defense drops here. And here's a huge Kowtow Cleave, hits into that Ogerpon slide, gets a big one-hit KO on that switch.
Yeah, that's an absolutely massive turn. This Ogerpon may be pretty important in this match for Gio's side because it's one of the best answers to that Urshifu, which we already know that Joe has brought. He let it and then switched it out to the back. It's able to follow me away, surging strikes, and also deal damage back to Urshifu. But Gio's going to have to figure out how to solve that Urshifu without it this game, because it switches into a Kowtow Cleave and simply gets KO'd.
And Golden Go replaces the fallen Ogerpon here. Golden Go is able to go for a super effective Make It Rain into this King Gambit, or sorry, into the Chien Pao, and a neutral attack onto the King Gambit. Iron Hand switches out, switching into the Fergraf, trying to prevent a possible Sucker Punch into the slot there, but King Gambit using this turn to protect itself, does not want to get kind of redirected, or not fall for the Sucker Punch. Here is a Sucker Punch, but Fergraf will protect that Sucker Punch over on Chien Pao's side, and here's a Make It Rain from the Golden Go, lands into the protect slot of King Gambit, but will get the KO on the Chien Pao.
Yeah, a really interesting relationship between the Chien Pao and the Golden Go here because of Chien Pao's move selection. It has Ice Spinner, Sacred Sword, Sucker Punch, and Protect. No Lash Out or Dark move that it can use if Fergraf is on the field. And so that Fergraf switching in actually means the Chien Pao can't easily deal with the Golden Go, even though it has the natural speed advantage. Instead has to give up the Make It Rain, and the Chien Pao just goes down. But all it does is open up an avenue for Urshifu to come in. Urshifu doesn't mind taking a -1 Make It Rain. It's going to resist that move and threatens a ton of damage back. And then because the King Gambit's on the field as well, as long as it can take a -1 Make It Rain, you're threatening the Fergraf and making sure that Fergraf isn't able to use a Life Orb boosted move to go after the Urshifu as well.
Yeah, so Urshifu comes in safe. King Gambit switches out. Amoonguss will take the field here, a very powerful Pokemon that has been around VGC for such a long time. Fergraf will switch out on Gio's side to be replaced by the Iron Hand, so Gio will have access to Fake Out next turn. Joe will have access to Rage Powder next turn. Here's Urshifu using U-Turn, so this is a way to get Amoonguss and King Gambit out onto the field safely here, just being able to pivot using that U-turn. But Golden Go will get to move here, will be taking a -1 attack from this Golden Go. So King Gambit takes the field, and here's another Make It Rain from that Golden Go. Big damage, but King Gambit hangs on, does some pretty good damage to that Amoonguss.
Yeah, still a pretty strong turn. That's still choice specs. Golden Go can deal so much damage. King Gambit now very low. Joe pivoting a lot to try to stay one step ahead. Doesn't just put a Dark Move into the Photograph slot that would have hit Iron Hands and switches in the Amoonguss, but isn't able to capitalize with an Urshifu damaging turn. Instead, it just U-turns out the King Gambit, who takes actually more from the Make It Rain than the Urshifu would have.
Yeah, so Golden Go on Geo side terrestrializes in that Steel type. Gonna try to boost its Make It Rains because of the terrestrialization. Fake out from the Iron Hands, hits into that Amoonguss, but that Amoonguss is gonna come back a little bit healthier because of that Citrus Berry right there. So here's Golden Go with a Make It Rain, connects into both Pokemon, gets the KO on the King Gambit. Amoonguss hangs on as Golden Go's special attack will drop yet another stage, but a huge offensive threat on Joe's side of the field gets knocked out there. Joe really couldn't Sucker Punch because he had to be wary of the Photograph from possibly switching in as Amoonguss takes that flinch.
Yeah, such a difficult turn for Joe because he has to be worried about what a Fake Out into that slot to prevent Sucker Punch. Photograph switching in to block the Sucker Punch, but even the third option, the Golden Go using the terrestrialization to take away the weakness to Dark, also would have worked against the Sucker Punch. Opens up the space to just fake out the Amoonguss and go on the offense with a Make It Rain, picking up a KO. Now sticking this Urshifu on the field is going to have to lock into a move and be stuck in that move for the rest of the game. Meanwhile, the Golden Go, still with 3 Pokemon left on Geo's side, has the option to switch out and reset those 2 steps of minus special attack, but it doesn't need to. Going to just stay in and go on the offense. That critical hit close combat is massive though into Iron Hands.
Urshifu lands a critical hit into the Iron Hands, picks up a huge knockout right there. No more Fake Out support on Geo's side if that Iron Hands could find a way back out. Make It Rain from Golden Go, lands again. This Golden Go contender just go!
Oh, a critical hit one way, a critical hit the other way. The game simply ends on a critical hit, Make It Rain into that Urshifu. Things were looking dicey for Geo. With Iron Hands off the field, it was going to be difficult to deal with that Urshifu if it was just resisted and slowly weakening Make It Rains, but it doesn't matter how weakened they are when the critical hit comes through. Gives that damage amplification along with ignoring those -2 stages of special attack and simply allowing Golden Go to one-hit KO the Urshifu and give Geo the game.
Yeah, so huge critical hit right there. That Golden Go was an offensive threat, despite the fact that it was still, I mean, it had used so many Make It Rains and was still out on the field, continuing to make it rain. So tough critical hit there if you're Joe.
It was a really interesting match. It feels like a story of the day to see these King Gambits being forced to terrestrialize based on one set of offensive Pokemon out there. And then it feels like that plays exactly into the hand of their opponent, whose then main attacker comes out, whether it's the Regidrago or the Golden Go, and no longer sees a Steel type on the other side that would resist those moves and is able to just more easily go on the offense. The way Geo played that match made it so hard for King Gambit and also the Chien Pao by having the Golden Go positioned at just the right moment with the Photograph next to it to prevent any sucker punches. That just made it feel like there was no way to stop those Make It Rains from coming in, and they were so much damage. It made it very difficult for Joe to find the correct spots for that damage to land.
Here we go now, game 2 here in the first top 4 of the San Antonio Regional Championships. Geo will lead with Urshifu and the Iron Hands. Joe changing up a little bit, using the King Gambit and Dragonite as leads here.
Yeah, so that is the single strike Urshifu on the other side, a dark Pokemon with the Wicked Blow. Up against the Dragonite, has to watch out for big damage from an Aerial Ace coming back the other way, but of course has a Focus Sash to try to keep itself safe.
Yeah, so the Photograph will take the field for Geo, preventing the possibility of a Sucker Punch or an Extreme Speed. King Gambit will just go ahead and terrestrialize right now, becoming the Dragon type. Does not want to take a possible close combat from that Urshifu or a Drain Punch from that Iron Hands. Here's the close combat into that King Gambit. Not even doing 50% right here as Urshifu will drop its defenses. Not going to matter too much though because it does have access to that Focus Sash. Here's Dragonite with the Aerial Ace, big damage. Activates that Focus Sash. Urshifu will hang on with just 1 hit point. But now this King Gambit will be able to move. Might just be able to go for a straight up knockout in that Urshifu, and does. So the double up into the Urshifu gets a KO on a big offense Pokemon on Geo's side.
Yeah, on its face, a really strong trade for Joe, right? You spend 40% of King Gambit for the KO on Urshifu. But again, you have to wonder if that just plays into Geo's hand, because Golden Go hits the field now with King Gambit already weakened. with the Fargraph next to it to prevent Sucker Punch, and with the Steel typing removed. So there's no extra defensive Terastallization. That resource has already been used, and instead it was used to take away a resistance to this Make It Rain. That makes it so easy for Geo to go on the offense with Golden Go, and there's no hesitation in going on the offense with Golden Go. That Terastallization used immediately to turn those Make It Rains into just absolutely devastating attacks.
Carrying the choice specs as well, so this is a hyperly boosted Make It Rain. King Gambit does not want to get KO'd this turn, gonna protect itself here, but this Dragonite is gonna be vulnerable as Golden Go does Make It Rain here. Gonna land into this Dragonite, deal some big damage as it will hit into this Dragonite slot. How much damage is it gonna do? Big damage. Hangs on with about a little under 50% of its hit points remaining. Golden Go will take its first special attack drop as the Dragonite is able to go for a Stomping Tantrum into the Golden Go slot, dealing about 50% as Fargraph will use Trick Room to change up the speed order here.
Yeah, a really interesting choice from Geo. I mean, that Trick Room immediately looks pretty poor for him. We saw the Golden Go move before the Dragonite. We should expect that Dragonite and King Gambit are faster than Golden Go. Both will have the offense to KO the Golden Go at its full health, and so it's forced to switch off the field. Maybe you're content with that. You got a ton of damage onto the Dragonite, and it bought the window for the Trick Room. You can play in Trick Room with Iron Hands and Fargraph, but kind of diffuse his own Golden Go offense in the process.
Fargraph protects itself this turn, does not want to take big damage. King Gambit uses Kowtow Cleave into the Iron Hands, which was the Golden Go, not very effective here, and here is a Stomping Tantrum in the Iron Hands. Iron Hands switching in, taking 50% damage right here, does have access to Fake Out this turn, so Fargraph will actually have to try to pick up some damage here as Iron Hands uses Fake Out into that King Gambit slot, gonna make it flinch here as Fargraph will use Psyshock, landing in that Dragonite, picks up the KO right there, so looks like Geo's Fargraph is gonna be able to get the KO.
Yeah, Fargraph going on the offense, Geo making the most of that Trick Room, confirming a speed relationship here where the King Gambit flinched after the Psyshock landed. It means another Psyshock can go into the King Gambit slot. Geo still has a couple turns of this Trick Room go on the offense, but anytime you're playing Trick Room, Amoonguss is the thing you least want to see land on the other side. It's almost always faster than whatever you have on the field and could threaten a Spore that just breaks up your momentum, takes away those turns of Trick Room. But it's not always a bad thing for Geo because of those speed relationships in this game where Geo isn't strictly on the Trick Room side. As soon as the Trick Room is expired, maybe that just opens things up for Golden Go.
Yep, so Golden Go will come back out onto the field. That Golden Go is immune to Spore, so where does Amoonguss go here with the Spore? Fargraph protects itself, does not want to go to sleep this turn, as Amoonguss does use Spore, does land into the Golden Go, but it is protected because of the Good as Gold. Here's a huge Kowtow Cleave from the King Gambit into that Golden Go and gets the knockout from that range.
Yeah, just such a smart decision by Joe. Recognizes that the Golden Go could switch in to take that Spore. Something very positive for him is going to happen on that turn if he puts a Spore and a Kowtow Cleave into that move slot. Either Iron Hands is going to sleep, and a big problem for him is going to be missing for a couple of turns, or the Golden Go switches in. Geo trying to be one step ahead of it and block the Spore, but then loses that really pivotal Pokemon. The Pokemon that it felt like this game was building towards a culmination of Make It Rain's landing. No longer is that the option. It's going to be a lot more difficult for Geo to find the damage.
And here's the Fake Out from the Iron Hands. This is the last turn of Trick Room. Amoonguss flinches and cannot move. Fargraph will use Hyper Voice, gets the KO on the King Gambit as the Trick Room will expire after this turn. Joe still has one more Pokemon in the back to go up with this Amoonguss to face off against Geo's last two Pokemon as Fargraph takes more chip damage here. So what is this last Pokemon? It is the Chien Pao over on Joe's side, which kind of has... the Sword of Ruin is going to be big here because the defenses are going to drop on Iron Hands and Fargraph.
Yeah, defenses are dropped, but it feels like the Chien Pao is just up against too much. It doesn't have a dark move to go after this Fargraph. It doesn't feel like an Ice Spinner is going to do enough damage to KO. The Fargraph has the Psychic move to just KO Amoonguss, and if the Amoonguss goes down, Iron Hands will easily deal with the Iron Hands. So instead, Chien Pao has to prioritize going after the Iron Hands. Is it enough damage? It is not.
Iron Hands hangs on with just a sliver of hit points here as the Psyshock lands into Amoonguss. Amoonguss gets knocked out, so it's going to be the Chien Pao remaining versus the two Pokemon on Geo's side, the Iron Hands and the Fargraph. Here's a huge Drain Punch on that Chien Pao. Bring it down to its Focus Sash. 1 hit point remaining. Critical hit. Doesn't matter at all, and Iron Hands will just heal right back up.
And with only single targeting moves from that Chien Pao, Geo will be able to land a 100% accurate move with one Pokemon or the other and take this game. I'm fascinated by the way Geo played his way through this. It felt like a needle in the haystack to find this avenue through the game, using the Trick Room that felt like it just gave Joe the speed advantage. It was like a selfish Trick Room. The only Pokemon that really benefited from that Trick Room was the Fergaroth that set the Trick Room.
Yeah.
But it used it to take repeated KOs and then come out of that Trick Room with a newfound speed advantage against the Amoonguss to land the Psyshock and pick up the KO. Just such a great path through the game. So well played by Gio.
And there it is. Gio picks up the KO on that Chien-Pao. Gio Costa is going to be your first finalist here in the 2024 San Antonio Regional Championships, defeating Joe Ugarte in an exciting set here. Wow.